For committee members, can you just please confirm if you are having problems signing into eScribe? Thank you.
Madam Chair, I can't get in.
Okay, Councillor Helmer, can you get into eScribe, into the Civic Works meeting? I can't, so we're just looking to see who can and can't.
Yeah, I also cannot. The error message is this meeting has not been approved for access.
Perfect, thank you. The clerk is working on it, so we do have quorum. Councillor Cassidy, we're just having some issues with committee members getting into eScribe, so we're just working on that. But we do have quorum and we'll begin as soon as possible.
And I can't get in either, just so you know.
Perfect, thank you kindly. So it's everyone, thank you. Okay, to committee members, my system's just refreshed and has allowed me in. If you could try doing the same, either going out of eScribe or just hitting the refresh button and confirm once you're able to have access, that'd be appreciated. Perfect, and Councillor Turner, are you good as well? One moment, perfect. Perfect. So I do have a thumbs up from everyone. Councillor Van Meerbergen hasn't joined us yet, but we do have quorum. So the City of London is committed to making every effort to provide alternate formats and communication supports for council, standing or advisory committee meetings, and information upon request. To make requests for any civic service, please contact accessibility@london.ca or 519-661-2489, extension 2425. To make a request specific to this meeting, please contact cwc@london.ca. Please note the City Administration offices has limited access due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and please call ahead to make sure we can service you efficiently. Before I start this meeting, I just would like to take a moment to recognize the 215 stolen children that was discovered in Kamloops, BC. We recognize that there was actually 139 government residential schools across Canada from the 1870s up until 1996, and the events are not limited, sadly, just to that one site. So I will ask for a moment of silence before we start today's agenda. Thank you. Okay, thank you, committee, for your respect and your moment of silence. Moving on to today's committee agenda, looking to committee to see if there's any disclosures of pecuniary interest.
Madam Chair, this is Barb Westlake Power. Sorry to interrupt the meeting, but I've just allowed a caller in, and I'd just like the caller to identify themselves, please.
Yep, Paul Van Meerbergen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that gives us all our committee members, as Councillor Van Meerbergen has joined us by phone. Okay, moving on to our consent items. We have 7 items before us today. Looking to committee to see if you would like anything pulled for separate attention. And Councillor Van Meerbergen, if you want anything pulled, please just interrupt and say so.
Sure, thanks.
Okay, seeing no one looking for anything to be pulled. Looking to committee for discussion of what we'd like. Councillor Helmer.
I'm happy to move the consent agenda.
Perfect. Thank you. And a seconder in Councillor Cassidy. Looking for discussion, Councillor Helmer and Flora.
Thank you. Just a question through the chair to perhaps Mr. Odekirk or someone who's involved with the Greenway centrifuge issue. Obviously, unfortunate turn of events, and I support the actions of Civic administration in responding to the failure. Good to have a spare in a situation like this, that's for sure. Thinking back to the decision-making, is there anything you'd change in terms of the risk assessment decision-making process when you think about this going into the future, whether to defer maintenance like this or whether to decide to go ahead if we are faced with the same kind of circumstance?
Perfect. Thank you for that. Mr. Mathers.
Through the chair, we did speak about this at some length when this did come to my attention, and it's my understanding that from a cost perspective, there hasn't been increased costs due to this deferral. This work is very similar to what would have been done if we did take action in the previous year. However, we never want to get into one of these emergency procurement situations. So I think moving forward, we definitely want to move a little more quickly. And ideally, if we're outside of this COVID situation in the future, then it will allow us to be able to take that action more in a more timely way. But for the most part, this did not cause any increased costs. However, getting into these emergency procurement situations is not something we want to do. So we would act differently in the future.
Thank you, and well done given the circumstances. I think it's managed very well.
Thank you for that. Before I recognize Councillor Turnell, I'll just also note that item 2.6, the appointment of consulting engineers for an infrastructure renewal program. This is the first half of two reports, and we'll get the other one into the latter half of the year. Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple quick questions. One with respect to item 2.4, which is the purchase of rotary drum thickener for Greenway wastewater. And I imagine these are similar in nature to the centrifuge, but working a little bit slower, perhaps. The question, though, is the tender and the purchase is for one tumbler, and it states that there are two that are at end of life. Is the intent that this one is going to be able to accommodate the volumes associated with two?
Okay, Mr. Mathers.
Through the chair, absolutely, you've got that correct. So as part of the RFP, we actually stated that they could either provide two that are lower capacity or one larger capacity. And the bidder that was successful went with one larger capacity unit, which does meet our needs and provides the redundancy we need as well.
Great, thank you. The one on the roundabout at Hyde Park and Sunningdale 2.3, just a quick comment. I'm glad to see that moving forward. As a paramedic, I attended a number of pretty devastating collisions at that intersection, as well as Wonderland and Sunningdale, and it's noted in the report that that the Sunningdale and Wonderland roundabout had a good impact on the reduction of collisions at that intersection. The second is 2.5, just a quick question, perhaps it's for Mr. McCrae. The White Oak Road upgrades Exeter Road to 400 meters south. I cycle that intersection fairly frequently, and as you transit from a bike lane into Sharrows and then back into bike lane again, I hope that the project here incorporates the continuation, and I think it mentions the addressing the gap in the network, but it is the intent here to make sure that there's a continuous bike lane instead of going back to Sharrows and then back to a bike lane again.
Thank you for that. Mr. McCrae, realizing that you and I have spoke about it as it's in Ward 12, could you please speak to the importance of this cycling infrastructure? And if you also want to take an opportunity to speak to the improvements of safety with the roundabouts at Sunningdale and Wonderland, you can take the opportunity to do so as well.
Thank you for the opportunity through the chair. Yes, the gap in the bike lanes on the White Oak Road section is definitely acknowledged and will definitely be addressed through this project. It's a major component of the project. It's been flagged by the Cycling Advisory Committee in the past, and lots of cyclists are very aware of it. It is a missing gap in the network from a few perspectives, and it's primarily because of the water course crossing and the large structure there that is not quite long enough for a standard widening to accommodate the cycling facilities and the sidewalk. And that is a key component of this design assignment, to sort out the best and most cost-effective solution for that water course crossing, and then will enable us to fill that missing gap in the network. And thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to speak about the safety improvements with the roundabouts at the north end of the city. You know, the roundabout at Wonderland and Sunningdale did make a measurable improvement. In the years leading up to its construction in 2014, we had 11 severe collisions. Those are collisions causing injuries. And since its construction in 2014, we've only had one. So a very noticeable improvement. The context, the design at Hyde Park Road and Sunningdale is similar, and the collision experience currently is similar to what Wonderland Sunningdale was before the roundabout construction. And the vast majority of those collisions are right angle collisions. So we anticipate a similar improvement at Hyde Park and Sunningdale. And then it also includes active transportation improvements. There's going to be sidewalks and also cycling facilities at Wonderland and Sunningdale. It was constructed with wide multi-use paths to provide cyclists that didn't want to navigate the roundabout to use the paths. To make it a little more intuitive at this next roundabout at Hyde Park Road, we're going to separate the sidewalk with an asphalt bicycle path to make it a little more obvious and intuitive. So we'll see how that works. Thank you.
Perfect. Councillor Turner, would there be a follow-up question, or are you okay?
We're good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. To Councillor Van Meerbergen on the phone, if you would like to ever unmute yourself to say something, it's just *6 as a reminder. And I will now turn to Councillor Cassidy. You're muted, Councillor Cassidy.
Thank you. Rookie mistake, right? So I actually thank you to Mr. McCrae for his last response and bringing up the roundabout, because that's my question, and it's not necessarily about Hyde Park, but I'm really glad to see that going in there. Glad to see and to hear about the substantial reduction in collisions, and we do know that the kinds of collisions that happen in a traditional intersection generally are much more severe than the kinds of collisions that happen in a roundabout. So this leads me to the overall Sunningdale Road project, and eventually will make its way down to the Adelaide intersection. And Mr. McCrae is probably anticipating where I'm going, because I've asked lots of updates from staff on that particular intersection. So as this project goes down the road, originally they had anticipated a roundabout at that intersection. Now I understand it may be off the table, or it just may be an if, perhaps maybe not a sure thing anymore. So what are the kinds of things that go into the decision to make to convert that intersection to a roundabout? Do we not have the required real estate anymore now that there's a commercial development that's gone up at the southeast corner of Sunningdale and Adelaide? Or, so we've seen them go in Wonderland, they're happening at Hyde Park now. And what would make Adelaide not have that? There's so much residential development going on in there. There are lands north of that intersection that are scheduled for development as well. So I see the situation getting worse there. So I'm wondering about the collision history there as well.
Thank you. Mr. McCrae.
Thank you, through the chair. So yes, the intersection at Sunningdale and Adelaide has been considered through the Sunningdale Road environmental assessment, and then also the Adelaide Street environmental assessment. The Sunningdale Road EA is complete. The Adelaide Street one is not yet. It's pending approval from council, and it considered the intersection design at Sunningdale and Adelaide, and the previous recommendation for a roundabout has not yet been finalized, but it's a function of a variety of factors, and that's the traffic movements, the predominant turning movements, collision history, active transportation components, adjacent land use. So those are all a variety of factors. And you also mentioned a good one, that land availability. And so we'll be finalizing that environmental assessment and bringing it to council in the future. And at that time, we'll confirm what the recommendation for that intersection is.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy, a follow-up?
No, thank you, that's fine.
Okay. Looking to committee members for any final questions or comments, or our visiting councillors, as we do have Councillor Lewis and Councillor Hillier with us virtually as well. Seeing none, this has been moved and seconded already, and the vote will be opening in eScribe. Councillor Van Merbergen, if you want to *6 to unmute and state your vote.
I vote yes.
Thank you kindly.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Scheduled items, there's none. Items for direction, there's none. We do have the deferred matters list as normal. I have no additional business unless committee had something, but I would need a mover and a seconder for the deferred matters list. I see Councillor Helmer, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. Councillor Helmer, please go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to inquire through the chair about item number 4 on the deferred matters list. This is the request to Civic Administration to take a look into some of the traffic concerns in around 747 Waterloo. This is an issue that came up during a planning discussion quite a while ago, and I know that the neighborhood is still concerned about these things. Right now, traffic calming has gone in, temporary traffic calming related to the Adelaide Street underpass construction, and so I think some of the concerns are alleviated, and traffic overall has been impacted by the pandemic and the activity restrictions that have been in place. But this is an ongoing issue, and I just wanted to check in with Civic Administration to see when we might expect to hear back about that, and the neighborhood can get some resolution to this issue they raised a couple years ago.
Perfect. Thank you for that inquiry. Ms. Scher, would this be you?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will be reporting back at our next cycle with that report.
Okay, thank you for that.
Wonderful.
Councillor Helmer, you're satisfied at this time? Perfect. Ms. Scher, there are several other things on the deferred matters list that come back in Q2. Would that be included in the next cycle as well?
Madam Chair, we will have to go through and double check to make sure that all those dates are still relevant. We have had a few things that have been somewhat delayed either by our partners at other levels of government or by consultation delays from COVID. Staff will make sure those adjustments are made prior to the next meeting Civic work.
Okay, thank you for that. So we'll have the best information at this moment in time for the next committee meeting. So thank you to committee for those questions. If there's any further questions, please raise your hand now. If not, the vote is now opening in eScribe. Councillor Van Merbergen, if you want to *6 and state your vote now, please.
Yeah, I'll vote yes.
Okay, thank you.
Closing the vote, the motion carries 5-0.
Concludes our official agenda for today, recognizing it's also Indigenous History Month and Pride as it's now June. I wish everyone a good day and I will see you all again soon. Thank you.